Where's your glass?
Wait, sorry.
Hi! So, he just got up. Empty Spaces. Gonna introduce...
Hi there!
Yep.
My name is AJ Crash.
I'm drunk.
That's your name now, permanently. This is Morgan McDuff. And we are going to talk about Doctor Strange.
Yeah, so...
We just went and saw this a couple of hours ago.
Yeah.
And we got ourselves all set up to talk about it. So let's talk about it. So, first off, you like the movie?
I like the movie. Definitely a recommended movie.
I think it would have been great in 3D. We didn't get to see it in 3D.
Yeah.
It would have been a definite pick for a 3D movie.
I mean, and just seeing it in 2D, I saw all the points where, like, throughout watching it, I'm like, oh, that would have been, like, that scene was obviously meant to be 3D.
Of course.
We should have seen this in 3D. Oh, crap, why didn't we see this in 3D? I remember seeing the trailer in 3D. And some of the scenes that were in the movie, and I remember seeing them in 3D in the trailer, and, like, the expanding of magic, and I'm like, oh, they're just doing so much with 3D now.
Right.
Anyways, see it in 3D if you have that option.
So, real quick. Is it better than most of the other MCU movies so far?
I wouldn't say better.
I would say
par.
I would say it's pretty much on par with what we've come to expect from the MCU, which isn't perfect. The MCU is in no way perfect, but it's a great. It's
definitely perfect.
We can agree to disagree on that point. Like, I will say that there were moments in this movie that got a little frustrating for me, a little odd. But we're gonna go over the good and the bad. So,
but you know what? Spider-Man's part of the MCU now. It's perfect.
It's you know, you were so worried about Spider-Man being in the MCU, but let's not get off track
we're on
too
this
quickly.
Movie. Yeah, we're on
let's
this
not
movie.
get off track too quickly. So, right off the bat, so there's gonna be spoilers. Spoiler talk.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler! If you don't want spoilers, turn it off now.
We should have.
Don't turn it off.
We should have gotten our tech guy to put like a big text spoiler alert.
Hey,
that should have been on the blurb back here. So, let's talk immediately about the opening sequence. The opening sequence, we see our big bad and our mentor type character face off.
Right.
Otherwise known as
straight from the beginning.
Straight from the beginning, we have this super weird and super trippy thing in the mirror dimension. They do this big fight where the bad guys, minions, whatnot, go up against this amazing ancient one. And it was...
Did they ever actually say a name for
that's the character's name. That's the actual character's name.
Just the name is Ancient One.
The actual character in the comics and whatnot.
I mean, I was kind of hoping she had a name still.
Yeah. Well, no. Ancient One has always been that character's name.
Ancient One is always the Ancient One.
So, we'll get to the Ancient One in a second. But let's talk about this opening sequence. Now, it could have been really great if I knew what the hell was going on during that sequence.
No,
unfortunately,
it was, hey, we have a special effects budget.
They have this...
There you go.
No. I'm not talking about the special effects. The special effects were bomb.
Yeah.
What could have been better was the actual action. And of course, there's a big debate upon whether the action scenes in the MCU are great or they're terrible. There's so many cuts in the MCU movies when it comes to action, and that scene had so many cuts. And I saw very little of actual action because there was so much going on.
Yeah, I mean, the little bit of choreographed fight scenes, they jumped into the fight scene, there was a little bit, and then they jumped back out of the fighting and talked a bit more.
Yeah, but the choreographed fight scenes, you could tell when you could actually see what's going on, is that they were well put together. Like, they've you know, Marvel has, since the very beginning, stepped up their game when it comes to choreography with just, like, hand-to-hand combat, and then they added in these special effects. It could have been really cool if it weren't for the fact that they do so many damn cuts in their action sequences, but
it gets hard to follow exactly where
everything is, because when you,
especially when they're moving the actual scene around,
when you
with
move
the special
scene,
effects, the physical scene is constantly,
of course,
changing.
Definitely, that's exactly how
during
I feel about that opening sequence could have been a great introduction, and it was because of the special effect, but I think it could have gone a little bit better. You could tell throughout the rest of the movie, though, that...
I'll give it that, though. Whether you liked it, or it just gave you the worst case of vertigo, I think they spent more money on the special effects in this one than most of the MCU.
That's an interesting claim. Because I know that there were some of them that... Some of the past movies that were really trippy. Particularly Guardians of the Galaxy comes to mind when it comes to their effects.
There was a lot of,
But I will
especially
say,
when you consider makeup effects alone.
I will say, while that action sequence at the beginning was kind of meh for me, overall it was really, the action sequences were good because they got better.
Ended just
right
from the beginning.
Action sequences.
How that sequence ended very okay, and we're done with that scene. And
which one?
The very first action scene.
Right.
How it's just fight, and they just got away, and she's just okay. They got away. and just walks away from the scene, and now we go on with the movie.
I didn't see it as too weird. I think the placement of the scene was the most weird part. I think they wanted to introduce everybody. Oh, right off the bat, there's
I think
so
they
much
just
action.
Wanted to introduce. Here's the special effects. Get ready for vertigo.
No. I think right off the bat they wanted action because if you notice, then they launch into getting to know Stephen Strange, and that took over. Probably not an actual
quarter
long
of the
time.
movie.
Yeah. You didn't see any action for that point. You didn't want. I could see from a business standpoint that they wanted action at the very beginning, and they wanted people to be drawn in by the action. Didn't make it any less clunky as far as the placement of the scene.
Right. Yeah, it's not until like halfway through the movie that now Strange is engaging in his first like actual martial arts.
And then we talk, and that's perfect segue back to like the rest of the action of the movie. It got better.
Yeah.
The action sequences that first scene, fell, sadly to their trend of so many cuts in these movies. And while there were, of course, cuts in the other action sequences in the movie, there were less of them, and there were more pan across scenes. You know what I'm saying? Like instead of cutting from being over here to them flying this way and then cutting over here, you saw them over there, and the camera went with them.
Right.
And which means that not only is it a break from the ridiculous amount of cuts that they have, but you can also follow the action a long way in like this one smooth, clean take.
Right.
And now, since we're on the topic of action sequences, let's talk about a few of them that were really trippy. I'm going to go back to the one in the Sanctum, but before I do that scene where he's about to die, and they're in the hospital, and it's the astral planes.
Jump right into that spoiler. There you go. Yeah.
The astral plane. I've already said there's going to be spoilers.
Spoilers.
The astral plane.
Spoilers. Don't turn away.
The astral plane fight was really cool.
Yeah.
They're just flying all over the room. I mean, there's nothing else that you can say about this scene. Like, of course, it could always be better choreographed. Like, everything can always be better choreographed. Yeah. But, I mean, it was good. It was fun. Like, you didn't have to sit there and critique the scene or be frustrated because there were so many cuts or anything.
Especially with it being a whole new...
It was a very tense scene as well. Like, you knew he wasn't going to die, of course, because he's the lead and you're halfway through the movie.
Right.
That didn't stop you from feeling the panic of going, oh shit, this guy's going to die.
Especially with her screaming.
Especially with her screaming.
Moving things everywhere. 5 seconds. Now, it gave more intensity to it.
I don't want to domino too quickly into her reaction to the supernatural, because I thought her reaction to the supernatural was very lax. But
I thought she took it too well.
I thought she took it too well.
Frankly, I thought that was a little unbelievable. It was, no, she would have way more questions about this. She would at first be like, no, I'm obviously stoned, and walk away at first would be more believable.
But Steven was about to die.
Right.
So, I mean, going on adrenaline alone, and knowing whether it was really in front of her or not, whether she was hallucinating or not, like, she didn't want somebody to die, even if she's hallucinating it. Like, if she thinks she's hallucinating it and she's not actually hallucinating it, then somebody died because she fucked up.
Like the professional she is, put aside her mental breakdown to handle the situation.
But like I said, that goes back to how cool that action sequence was, because despite how unbelievable it was, you didn't spend too much time dwelling on that, because you immediately had this scene going on around her.
Right.
And you were focused more on the bigger picture instead of the semantics of her reaction to it.
Right. It was really after the action ended that then I started to get into, wait, now she's just going to buy it, and we're just done with.
But you could tell that she was like super, like she was super sarcastic and snarky with him about, where was he gonna go? I think.
Where are you headed next? Oh, okay. You don't have to tell me. Fine.
Yeah. I think some of the dialogue in this movie. I think the dialogue was not this movie's best, strongest point.
Yeah.
Like. I think the moments
frankly,
where
I think the ancient one got all the best lines when it came down to
But
it.
what's funny is after looking back on it, all of the scenes that involve like the supernatural and whatnot, their dialogue sounded good because they were talking about something super nuts in the nuts environment.
Right.
So whether like you knew this was like that they were being truthful about it, like you knew they weren't just insane, and they were actually talking about magic.
Because she jumped straight to the, you're not going to believe my words. Here, I'm going to prove it.
Yeah.
And now we're going to move on with me just informing you that you know nothing. Jon Snow.
Jon Snow.
Sorry, wrong reference.
Very wrong reference. But I will say that if it weren't, a magic movie, the dialogue in these scenes would have been very awkward and very weird. Of course, that makes sense in any sense of the form.
I mean, it should be awkward.
But when they didn't involve magic or the supernatural, and they just tried making these scenes that were between normal people, like it felt very forced. Except for that one scene where Benedict Cumberbatch, Stephen Strange, goes off on Rachel McAdams, Christina, because he's panicking and his life is over. That was really good, but if you notice, that was a monologue and not really dialogue.
I mean, but still, even though it was him monologuing, it was definitely some of the best emotion, most realistic emotion that he had in the entire movie.
It was right off the bat too, because
like you felt him breaking apart, and he was just done with this.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was difficult it's difficult, of course, with so much going on in this movie, to make this character human.
Yeah.
Especially, like, even in the comics, like, Doctor Strange is, a flawed person, but a lot of times he doesn't show any emotion. It was very similar in this movie. And it was a little frustrating that they continuously went back to how arrogant he was and how egotistical he was, but they more talked about how arrogant and egotistical he was than actually showed that he was arrogant and egotistical.
Yeah,
which is where I was talking.
Not a negative flaw either.
I mean, show don't tell is like the number one rule in anything ever when it comes to creating something. So, yes, I think Benedict Cumberbatch was definitely he definitely helped this movie.
Yeah.
I was very skeptical about him being, Doctor Strange at first, but he had to have been the best piece of acting.
His ability to just decide that he's all that and not even care what you think of him in his previous roles,
right.
so
I
know
mean,
he was set up
we
for
could just
that.
say the role. We could just say Sherlock.
Yeah.
and move on from there. But if you notice the rest, I don't want to discredit the rest of the actors in this movie, but they weren't really given much. Like, yeah. I think there was a lot of dialogue, and I'm not going to go too much into the directing decisions, but
the ancient one, like I said, I felt like she had the best lines, but even those best lines were monologued. Just I'm gonna spew my line, and if there's just accept it.
Right. You have good dialogue, good directing, and then good acting, and it's very difficult when one of those is subpar for it to look good at all. And you could tell, like, even in moments when it probably shouldn't have been that good of a scene, Benedict Cumberbatch made it look very smooth and very realistic. You felt
credit to his
Stephen Strange
clear
was
talent.
Stephen Strange might very well be my new favorite character in the MCU just because of his acting and the fact that I could feel that character. I'm not going to discredit again any of the actors, and he hasn't had his movie yet. We can't make this. We can't. Yeah. He was good. Yeah, he was good.
I'm
but
still
again,
scared of what they're gonna do with him. I'm hopeful and scared.
Our tech guy has his own input that he doesn't want to talk too much about, apparently.
Right. But yeah,
I will say that they did have a talented cast in this movie. Especially, and it was very shocking for me because we were just talking about how at the very end, we're jumping all over this movie, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
We are not going in order at all. I wanted to go in order, which is why I went for the opening sequence. I guess
it's not gonna happen.
before we do that, how about we just talk about the story in general?
So, I liked how they introduced
Doctor Strange.
all these characters that we know. Those of us who have read the comics know that these are going to be like ongoing characters, but they so casually just
they were so casually introduced it. Yeah, like Wong's introduction was stood out a lot because they made him seem like such a background character when he was introduced. You're thinking, oh, this guy's here for comic relief, maybe. But no, he's Stephen Strange's second in command. He's a big deal. And
Wong's actor is named Wong.
Yeah, Benedict Wong.
I haven't gotten over that I'm just enjoying how much how that is.
But let's talk about like the plot in general.
Okay.
This was very much so Stephen Strange's story. So let's start with how he was introduced. Let's talk about his origin story first, and then we'll move on from there.
Yeah.
I loved it. And, hey, tech guy.
So the first appearance, for instance, of Doctor Strange in Strange Tales
the comics. Let's talk about
the
comics.
comic book. Yeah, in Strange Tales 110, his first appearance. I mean, it really went. You go with the synapse of his comic appearance origins to the synapse of this movie, and you practically read the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Very similar, yeah.
So I mean, and the look isn't too far off either. I gotta say that.
You know what's funny is I really didn't think Benedict Cumberbatch had the look of Doctor Strange. I thought they were going to go in a completely different direction with him.
Yeah,
but
until that scene
where he started to look like Doctor Strange, it was
like
perfect.
Like it went from he kind of has
but that's okay.
This and that. It was like
Doctor
Strange,
okay.
And then all of a sudden he floats up and
there's Doctor
Strange.
There's Doctor Strange right in front of us. If in case you couldn't tell, but from the talking, the scene we're talking about is the scene where he's fighting Caecilius, I believe is his name.
The big bad for the movie.
The big bad for the movie, if you don't count Dormammu, which I'm not really.
Yeah, no.
In that scene where they're fighting, and that levitating cloak goes and saves, or goes and helps help Steven, and he floats up, and he looks just like Doctor Strange, and it was perfect.
Right there, like all the pieces were coming together, and all of a sudden all the pieces were there, and it's just, that's him.
Right. And it was perfect. But, I forgot what we were talking about before we jumped into his look. What were we talking about beforehand?
His origin.
His origin, right. So, you were talking about how it's very similar in the comics of his origin story.
He goes through about the same process. Doctor Strange, a medical doctor, one of the best in his field, highly...
intelligent, but highly arrogant.
Yeah, highly arrogant, and has the occasional critic to his work of that they feel like he can do more to help people, but he's too egotistical for it. And then, bam, gets into this car accident, just like the process again. And his hands are destroyed in this car accident.
And as
a result,
not really killing him, but
it destroys his career.
It destroys him, like, as a person, because his career is his life.
And he goes through every modern medicine he could find, and the same way goes through the process in the movie. He goes through everything he can find, and just finds that that medicine isn't going to help his situation, and. So for a strange turn of events, he starts turning to other things.
Right. Well, I know a lot about the comics, but I've not ever read Doctor Strange's origins, so I don't know how true it was to the comics. I just know what I saw on the screen today, and it was good. It was good, especially how it started off. They introduced, Benedict Cumberbatch was really good at being Stephen Strange without any other people helping him out. There weren't, you noticed there was that scene at the very beginning where Christina, who was obviously a past lover of his, in some way, she helped, give some exposition, but he didn't really need her to give the exposition. He could, convey that on his own.
Yeah, by the very air of his arrogance.
Right.
You could kind of tell the same things that she was there to flat out state what people are who aren't getting subtle things.
Right. Well, yeah, which could be a little frustrating for some people. Like if I'm being if I'm being extra critical, there are a lot of people who are frustrated when exposition does that because it makes the audience feel like but the movie thinks they're stupid.
I accept it in origin movies, but after the origin movie, let's move on.
Right. Okay. That's a fair way to think about it.
I'll accept it when they're establishing the character. After that, we're not.
But exposition really
understand
bothers
the
me.
character.
Exposition really bothers me if it's done in a shitty way. Like, I know somebody once made the joke online about how you might as well put like their character sheet for like D&D.
Their D&D
like up on the screen, like traits, flaws, stats. Like they might as well do that in some movies. But this one was very good at conveying things slowly and not in like an obvious way. Like they might as well just be turning to the camera and telling you, by the way, Stephen Strange is an arrogant asshole. So
I like how you point at me while doing that because.
Would you rather be Stephen Strange or be an arrogant asshole? Or not be an arrogant asshole?
I'm drunk.
He's had a few tonight. Even though you're on like your second one or something like that. He's a lightweight. He's a lightweight.
Whatever.
You're fifth? Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
You were over there writing stuff and I was just slamming one down after the other.
That's funny.
You prepare your way, I prepare my way.
Let's keep going on with the story. Now, his origins were done very well when it comes to pacing until a certain point where it seemed just a little bit odd for me. I don't know if it was odd for you, but you know, you could see his struggle. You could see immediately upon him waking up in that hospital bed, and there were things in his hands, and he was like, he was panicking right then. Not because he was in pain, not because he was in a car accident, not because he almost died, but because his right fucking hands.
His career was over.
He was panicking right then, and it was so great that, like, you know, with so little, you know, gestures, you could tell just how fucked up he was inside at that moment.
His facial expressions. That's the ability of the actor.
And you can see his struggle as he continues to go through with these, you know, ridiculous experimental medical procedures, and you could see how difficult it was for him. But then, and you know, he got this file for this guy who miraculously healed, and he went to see the guy who miraculously healed, who was paralyzed and somehow walked again. And I think that scene was a little weird, where the two of them were talking. The guy's name was played by Benjamin Bratt, who I really like. Yeah. In you know, if he does well, if he really gives it all into his character. I think that scene was weird because as soon as Benjamin Bratt started talking about, he said it so casually too. Like it took little to no prodding from Benjamin Bratt.
Because by the end of the movie, when you realize this is like supposed to be a secret group and all this, it's like he really gave that up a little.
Especially considering he really didn't seem to he really seemed to dislike Mr. Strange or Doctor Strange.
Yeah,
Mr. Doctor.
Mr. Doctor, yeah.
He really seemed to dislike Stephen Strange. Like when he first saw him, he was like, "Oh, look, you asshole! You didn't see me because you knew I was, you know, a fail, or you know immediately if you took my case, you would have failed, and it would have been a perfect record."
Yeah. So I have this secret organization that I know about.
Yeah.
And this guy that I'm.
And it teaches
not just not fond of, but in fact dislike. Ask me about 3 questions. You got it out of me.
Yeah.
I give.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little too fast.
And not just that. I think on both ends it was a little weird. Not just because I believe Jonathan was the character's name. Jonathan Pangborn.
Could be.
Give me just 1 moment.
You're almost there?
I'm almost there.
Are you almost there?
I'm almost there.
Did you get it?
Jonathan Pangborn. Jonathan Pangborn. I almost got it. So close. So not only was it weird how quickly he gave up the information, but it was weird for me how quickly Stephen Strange accepted it. Right. Because the way that Jonathan explained it, he says, so my body was messed up. So I was like, so all I have left is my mind. So I might as well train my mind. Yeah. And then I learned, I went to go see gurus and whatnot, and through spiritual excellence and whatnot, spiritual learning, I learned to be, through spiritual, you know, training, I walked again. And as a man of science,
this very established skeptic is suddenly like, oh, that's all I got to do. All right, I'm out of here.
And they made up for it a little bit when he finally got to the place in Japan, and he was like, oh, you're ridiculous.
Help your spirit.
He was like, why? But I mean, what else was he expecting? That's exactly what the guy said it was going to be there. So that scene was very weird for me. But taking away that scene, I think the rest of it continued on through that path very smoothly, for the most part. Yeah. He gets there. He finally gets there, and Mordo. We're introduced to Mordo, sort of. Another main character of it, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. He's been in multiple things.
I'm going to assume you said that right, because I'm not going to say that right.
He's a good actor, actually. He's been around for a while. He was the bad guy in the Firefly movie, I believe. I never saw that.
He was. Oh, yeah.
He was also in The Martian recently, and I really liked him in that movie. But
side in that.
What?
I felt like he was kind of just a side character in that, but maybe I'm not remembering right in that.
He was the one who was like, no, we need to go find this guy.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I remember, yeah.
So, finally we meet Mordo, and he overhears Stephen going, saying the name of the place. What is the name of the place? It's difficult for
nowhere near
for
that
us
part now.
for us disgusting, uncultured Americans. Kathmandu, Nepal.
Sure.
No, it wasn't in Nepal. Wasn't it in Japan?
No.
Daisy. Oh, we are so.
It was in that
prepared.
place.
Oh, wait. Kamartaj.
Right.
Kamartaj, something like that, I believe. So we finally meet Mordor, and he overhears Stephen Strange saying the name of that place. And so somebody just took my picture.
Yep, that happens.
Very rude. So
when you record something in a public place.
And it was kind of weird for me that he didn't just walk up to him. Like he had to trail him as though he was going to learn something from this guy. By the way, Stephen Strange has spent all of his money apparently. He had this really bomb-ass apartment and whatnot. Yet once he got to this place in Japan, I believe
it wasn't Japan.
It was Nepal.
Like Asian territory or
Japan is in Asia.
Right, not in India or
No.
No?
Oh, what?
Okay. Nepal. Right.
It was in Nepal.
Yeah, it was in Nepal.
Oh yeah, it was in Nepal. Why did I say Japan? I don't know. Either way, Nepal. And so why trail after
That's a
him?
place in the world.
Kamartaj. Why trail after him as though he's going to learn something from this guy who looks like a hobo, by the way, because he's apparently sold off all his. He's worth $1 million or something.
Yeah.
Probably not that much, but still.
But he's blown through all of his money at this point.
Yeah. Apparently, he spent the last of his stuff at to get to this place in Nepal. And what I thought was kind of weird was, like I said, he trails after him. And the only reason he trails after him instead of just walking up to him and going, "Oh, I can take you to this place," is Stephen Strange is then cornered by these three thugs, and is about to be mugged.
And now it's time.
And then they start kicking the shit out of him, and so of course Mordo steps in and is like, "Haha, I'm all awesome and shit," and
couldn't step in and stop it.
Before he got
had to wait until there was a fight so that he could get his knuckles bruised.
And of course, what's funny is he didn't even step in early. He waited for Stephen to get the shit kicked out of him.
Beat a little bit first.
And in the process, the one thing the muggers were trying to take, his watch, the last thing of worth to him apparently, breaks. In the process of the fight.
Which wouldn't be that way if the hero actually stepped in to prevent crime instead of just observe crime.
Right, well, but spoiler alert, Mordo's not really a hero in Disney.
Yeah.
Not in this movie. He's a good guy in this movie. They're playing the long con on this, and I love it. It makes me so happy.
Yeah.
But, so, finally, Mordo's like, "Oh, I can take you to this place that you've been searching for however long I've been stalking you." And so he takes him to see the Ancient One. And the funny part is, looking back on it, this is something I don't even think you realize. You may have read the comics, but I know a lot about the comics.
Probably the only comic reference. I read the Spider-Man stuff. I mean, if I haven't mentioned how love of Spider-Man yet, Spider-Man rules. Sony, you screw him up, I will hunt you. But yeah, that's the majority of what I know of Doctor Strange is his appearances with Spider-Man.
Something you may not realize is the Ancient One in the comics looks far more like the guy that Stephen Strange thought was the Ancient One when he first walked in.
Oh yeah?
He's a guy,
yeah, that's the
and
reference
he's an Asian
they were trying
dude.
to do, yeah.
A guy and an Asian dude, and instead walks in this bald white woman. And they're a little upset that they whitewashed the Ancient One.
Yeah, because he was.
But they did change her gender, so they thought maybe they thought diversity and shit. Either way, I'm not gonna get too into Tilda. She didn't do bad. Yeah, Tilda Swinton.
Yeah.
She didn't do too bad in the role. I thought she was just fine.
I thought she did great. Like, I really liked that Ancient One.
Right. I thought she was. I definitely thought she was okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think that she was the best. I think we've had far... I'm just not saying she was bad, but I think we've had far better mentor roles in the MCU up until now that were far more likable.
Yeah?
Like, I didn't feel like the Ancient One had very much personality in this, which is the point. But you're supposed to still, like the Ancient One. I still felt like Mordo was more of a mentor to Stephen Strange than the Ancient One was.
I think that was supposed to be part of the setup.
I think they were supposed to be more like
Mordo
brothers. I think Mordo was supposed to be more like the brothers in arms, because the Ancient One has always been the mentor of Stephen Strange. Like, for instance, right now, all I'm thinking of right now is the very first Iron Man movie, when Tony Stark is trapped in that prison, and we have this, this other prisoner who's, like a medical genius and whatnot, secretly. Or an engineer of some kind. He's like a medical genius and an engineer of some kind. Something like that. And of course, he loses his life, just like most of the mentors do in these MCU movies. Yeah. Noticing a pattern?
Nope. Doesn't happen in this movie, though.
Doesn't happen in this movie. And so, that guy had, there were very little points where we knew anything about that guy in that movie, but he was very likable, and we cared when he died. I know I cared when he died. I was like, I knew he was going to die, too.
Yeah, I mean, it was obvious, but...
It was obvious. But, that's not what we were talking about here. I think she definitely did okay. I mean, she wasn't the main character in this movie, so it's okay that she only did okay. Like I said, I don't think it's all on the actress in the cast for some of the moments in this that were a little odd for me, because like I said, I didn't think the writing was super good when it came to the dialogue. I thought the plot was good.
I definitely thought the plot was good.
I think they stayed true to Doctor Strange from the comics, while at the same time,
they presented the basic build to the character, very complimenting to the original creators of the character. So
I don't think they fit in as much as they wanted to, or maybe they really did want to rush through, because you don't have any clue how long it took Stephen Strange to learn.
Yeah. No, they did kind of skip through, and now he knows this.
And now he's just amazing.
Skill, and now he knows this skill.
I guess it might have been. I guess the point might have been to illustrate that he was far above all the other students. By the way, there were students.
Yeah, there was other students.
There was a lot of other sorcerer and sorceress students, and I didn't know that about Doctor Strange.
And apparently, he's the only one that.
Apparently, he's amazing. Apparently, he's just amazing at everything. And apparently, like these hundreds of other students.
But yeah, where did all of them go? Why did none of them stand out? Or
none of them stood out. And even at the very end, in the very end battle, I guess they were all inside the sanctum, waiting. I guess Wong was there. Wong was their first line of defense, and as soon as Wong died, everybody else was going to come charging out. I don't know. It's a little weird. That part was a little weird.
Just suddenly they were all gone.
Suddenly they were all gone, and suddenly Stephen Strange was amazing.
They were as important as they appeared.
Stephen Strange was apparently amazing. I guess that was kind of the point, was that he just excelled at doing this. I don't know if like magic is apparently secretly very similar to brain surgery, but or surgery of any kind, because he's not just a brain surgeon.
They do establish the scenes where he's unlocking arts that, and even his mentor, or Mordo, yeah. Even his mentor.
Say Baron Mordo.
Yeah. We're not supposed to know that he's Baron Mordo.
Oh, right, because he's a good guy.
Right, because he's a good guy. But yeah, even scenes where he's unlocking skills that and his mentor comes out like, okay, stop that, you're not supposed to do that.
You mean Ancient One? Ancient One was the one who was doing that.
No, when he's doing the time stuff.
Oh, the time stuff. That was Mordo. That was
Mordo comes out, and
I was thinking
Wong come out, and they're like, first of all, stop it, you're not supposed to do that. But second of all, how are you doing that? You're not supposed to be skilled enough to do that.
But
yet.
what I thought was kind of funky
right there that he is above expectations.
Yet. What I thought was kind of funky was a mere 10 minutes beforehand, he was the only student who had trouble using the sling ring. Like, he was apparently so much shit at using the basic sling ring. It was apparently basic. I have no clue how difficult it was to use because apparently every other student was able to use it so easily.
You're forgetting the power of montage.
But there was no. That's the point. Is if there was a montage, you would understand better how quickly and amazing he was at this. But it wasn't. Like, first he was shit, and then all of a sudden he was better than literally everyone else.
Yeah, it was a literal... One scene he couldn't summon a magic weapon. The next scene he's meeting Wong and has already gone through these tomes and tomes of knowledge, and Wong is impressed, and it's like, what happened in between these two scenes?
Yeah,
where'd that go?
What exactly? There was a thing that happened.
And then the next scene, he's just stealing more knowledge because he's going too fast, and Wong thinks he's not ready for this.
Right.
So,
I don't know. Excuse me.
No. Go on.
Fine, no.
Okay, go on.
I don't actually know what else I was going to talk about. Oh, right, story.
Yeah.
So let's move on a little bit past his learning curve, because apparently he was super good. Now, is there like... There was so much about these students being introduced. I don't even know if they might appear in the comics and we might just sound stupid. There might actually have been students...
I never sound stupid. I need another drink.
He's going to go get it. Go grab yourself a drink or something.
Yeah, no.
Or get... Yeah. So that sounds like a great idea.
That's why we have other people.
You're not just going to give us a thing. Our invisible friend is going to be helpful.
Anyways, so yeah, I mean, they might be in the comic books, like I said, if he wasn't talking to Spider-Man, I don't know.
Is there like a chain of command with these students? Because the next thing that happened is Dr. Stephen Strange is when
one of the four havens is attacked and he's blown into the New York conveniently blown into the New York haven.
Yeah, the New York one. I wonder if that sanctum is like in New York is like a big deal in the comics.
It's his home.
I'm being facetious. God damn it! You're supposed to play along.
Oh, I need more drink.
I can't work with this. So
I can't work with this either.
So the London sanctuary is taken off screen.
Oh, did you catch that Easter egg, by the way?
What?
The address of the New York sanctum. They briefly go by it,
but I don't remember.
It was 177A Baker Street. No reference there.
177A. Wait, don't tell me.
No. I'm going to tell you. We don't have enough time for you to forget.
We don't have enough time.
Sherlock's address. It's not that, but it's a variant of Sherlock's address is Baker Street. What was it? 2 something something B. 221 B Baker Street.
That's hilarious.
So yeah, they slap a variant of Sherlock's address on the New York haven.
On the Sanctum Sanctorum, yeah.
Yeah.
So the London Sanctum is taken off.
Watch for that Easter egg. Enjoy.
Enjoy.
Now you can
why the hell are you watching this if you haven't seen that?
Alright.
Right.
Yeah, there's spoilers here. What are you doing?
Get the fuck out. Actually, don't get the fuck. You stay right there. Just like, yeah. Just close your ears. Just watch us. I'm sure we're far more entertaining when you can't hear our annoying voices. Let's move on for a second.
They're not listening.
I mean, we can't really do that because
that doesn't work because
I already screwed up the joke because I didn't see what you were doing.
Right.
Anyways, move forward. The London Sanctum is taken off screen, and the Camartage is attacked. And in the process of the attack, Stephen Strange is thrust into the New York Sanctum. there's one person there whom is the, master of the sanctum.
The sanctum, yeah.
And he walks into the sanctum and goes, "Hello?
Yeah,
Is
nobody
anybody
responds.
there?" And he spends the next 10 minutes or so looking at everything, and everything is cool in this room. Everything in this room is bad.
Especially a certain cloak.
Especially a certain cloak, which has no play, has no effect on the story, or Stephen Strange actually surviving at any point.
Right.
But then this master shows up out of nowhere after 10 minutes.
And it floats.
It
like levitates.
It's called the Cloak of Levitation, in case...
Yeah.
And it's the one that Stephen Strange always wears in the comics. Any pictures you've ever seen of him, that's that cloak.
Yeah.
But he spends 10 minutes or so shouting
Wandering around,
"Hello?
Nobody responds.
Anybody there?" And then...
But after he finds the cloak...
After he finds the cloak, not just... No, he didn't put it on, though.
Right, didn't put it on yet, but after he wanders around all these artifacts that he could have easily taken... Who's guarding this place?
Who's guarding this place? But the London Sanctum was taken off screen, and the Camartage was being attacked. So of course that left the New York Sanctum to become attacked too.
Right.
So then suddenly, boom! People are attacking the New York Sanctum, and then there's the Master.
Now we find the guardian of the New York Sanctum.
And the thing was,
instead
he wasn't
of the
hiding.
whole time he was wandering around yelling for
he was just hiding. He wasn't hiding though.
Yeah, he was at the front door.
At the front door, that.
Yeah.
That
Sorry, I
Strange
forgot to
by.
come in the front door.
Either way, we're nitpicking. Either way, we're nitpicking. This master, though, dies so easily.
Yeah.
He's the master?
Like this is who's guarding this sanctum.
This is who. I guess this is why Stephen Strange excelled so fucking quickly, is because everybody else is shit. He died so fast for being the master.
Yeah, by comparison, it's pretty easy to excel.
And so then that moves into the next action scene. One of the first action scenes, the first for Stephen Strange that isn't training. That isn't training, of course.
Action scene for him, where as mentioned before, during battle he finally puts on the things and suddenly is the Doctor Strange we know.
He suddenly is the Doctor Strange we know. He looks exactly like him. But this action sequence was really cool. There were a couple of weird cuts in it that were difficult to follow, as usual, but I'm not going to spend a second longer focusing on that. It was still an awesome scene because there were really cool effects going along. They factored into the magic of the Sanctum Sanctorum super well. Like that, those different doors that all lead to a different random place in some universe somewhere.
Spin the dial to get to a new
region. And how he got rid of two of the minions was he threw one into the desert, turned the dial, threw another one to the jungle, turned the dial, and they're just stuck there. And that was great.
How convenient.
How convenient. But they didn't make it look convenient. They made it look really difficult for him to get rid of those two damn minions. And then, after getting rid of the two minions, he had to go up against
They had to establish first that if he didn't get smart about this battle, he definitely would have lost if he just hand-to-hand.
Because right off the bat, he goes, "Stop!" And then they try to attack him, and he goes, "Maybe this wasn't the best idea," and he runs off.
Yeah.
And so, then after getting rid of the two minions, which were insanely difficult, he has to go up against Caecilius, who is turning the walls around and shit, and it was a cool scene, and the fact that the cloak came in and saved him was
nice timing.
It was very lucky, very convenient, but they made
very dramatic entrance for becoming the Doctor Strange that we know.
So he catches Caecilius. The cloak catches Caecilius more likely.
I would say the cloak won that battle,
Not him. He was just the passenger for the cloak.
And now something that's very easily overlooked because it's overshadowed by two action scenes before and after it is this, long-ass dialogue between Stephen Strange and Caecilius. They talk about, the morality of what the, Ancient One might be doing, who the good guys might be. We obviously know who the good guys are, because anybody who says they're trying to save the universe by destroying it is the bad guy.
It was the guy serving ramen.
It was the cloak, of course, the bad guy. The Cloak was the bad guy.
The Cloak was the bad guy.
The Cloak was the evil mastermind the whole time.
That sounds about right.
It doesn't, though.
No. No, the Cloak won that battle, though.
The Cloak definitely won that battle. Stephen Strange was dead.
Yeah.
But then he makes up for it very quickly, because after this whole dialogue talking about the morality and whatnot, which was really good, it was the best scene from the villain.
Yeah, I mean, it was
the best talking scene from the villain.
His big talking moment.
Which didn't feel like a monologue because he was... I don't know why.
Because either the villain has to be captured, and then the villain monologues.
Or the hero has to be captured,
and then the villain monologues.
But it didn't
typical
feel...
format occurs.
Yes, the typical format. It didn't feel that way. There were so many times during this movie that there were so many cliches and lucky moments, but nothing ever felt out of place, because I guess that might be because of the magic element in this movie. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just felt very natural that things were lucky.
Yeah.
And so, of course, during this whole monologue scene, because they're monologuing, because they're monologuing, whatever you want to call it, back and forth, one of them gets distracted, and it's, of course, the one who is not kidnapped. Yeah. And Stephen Strange is stabbed
because one person is captured. So something out of the blue has to occur for him to be uncaptured,
right? So
that plot can go on.
Of course. Now Stephen Strange is stabbed in the heart.
And then
he's stabbed in the heart. Let's not think. Let's take away for a moment that this is a magic item that stabbed him in the heart. He was stabbed in the heart, and
he manages to
hobble himself away to like 40 feet away. Stand up all the way up for some reason. Did he stand up, or did he do it when he was laying down?
He was kneeling.
Either way, he made a portal, stood up, walked through the portal, and
for some reason his pursuer is not pursuing just in time to stop him from getting through this portal.
Of course, but that's okay, because like I said, things felt very natural. But he was stabbed in the heart, man. Later in the movie, the Ancient One is stabbed in the stomach and is thrown off long enough to be thrown off a building.
Cloak was winning at the time he got through the portal. Cloak was...
Oh, the Cloak, right. The Cloak stopped. Right. That's okay. That was funny.
Yeah.
That was a funny scene, and it didn't feel out of place.
Right.
Either. There were so many moments that shouldn't have worked in this movie.
And I still say Cloak was the best fighter in the whole
Cloak
movie.
was... Yeah, I mean...
Like, all the choreographed fight scenes... Cloak was the best fighter in the whole movie.
I mean, where does that cross from choreography to special effect?
I
picture it being a war between the choreographer and the CGI character.
Yeah, I mean, I could just imagine the guy getting beaten up by the Cloak. What he had to.
You know what's funny?
Keep himself from just laughing out loud.
Right. You know what's funny though?
Pretending he's
now that I'm looking back on it, that should have looked really stupid.
Yeah.
But
without the Cloak
it was
there,
funny, but it didn't look stupid.
It was, hey, Cloak's pretty cool.
Cloak is cool, yeah. It was fun. Yeah. This movie was a lot of fun. I mean, but the thing is sometimes what people call fun movies are difficult for me, because I'm like, but logically that doesn't make sense. In this realm, you didn't need to stick to logic.
Yeah, we've already established.
Like, even in superhero movies, like, we get Iron Man and whatnot, there's like a scientific reason for something, even if it doesn't make any sense.
Even if it's fake science, it's a science.
But it still doesn't make any sense to me, so it's difficult for me to let go of some of their more weird stuff. Like when they Ex Machina Jarvis back to life was kind of weird for me. But nothing in this movie seemed super weird, because it was in like there were different rules.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't know what the rules were, so you just kind of sat along for the ride, because why not?
So anyways, Cloak is beating up
the pursuer.
And he manages
to
jump
in the heart.
Jump back to the girlfriend from the beginning of the movie.
The girlfriend of the beginning of the movie, who is also...
side character, the only time females get to appear.
You mean
in MCU? Well, yeah, but she's still side character.
Even she's a side character. Even she is the one character. Okay, both of the female characters in this movie
were still side.
They were not. No, not just side, because Wong was a side character. Yet he was not a throwaway.
Yeah.
They made both the Ancient One, which would really piss off a lot of fans of the comics, in all honesty. They made the Ancient One and what's her name? Christina. They made them very throwaway. They were, at least for me, they were very cut and dry. Yeah. You knew exactly what their purpose was. You knew what they were going to do in this movie.
And then move on. We're done. Yay.
I know you liked the Ancient One, but
glad we had a female
I didn't really
in the
like
MCU.
the way that they...
Now move on out of the way so that the
I know
male heroes can be the stars.
That's okay. That's okay. We're gonna get Captain Marvel, and it's gonna be badass.
Yeah.
Either way, I know you like the Ancient One, but I didn't really, just because she served very little purpose other than being that mentor, and she wasn't even too likable to me when she was dying. Like, her character dies. Spoiler alert.
No, she's the mentor that doesn't die in the MCU. She dies. Like, you're dead now.
I mean, she's one of the only mentors in the comics to die so early. Except it's a he. But anyways, like, she dies, and I don't care.
Yeah.
If that's cruel of me, like, I'm a cruel person.
Yeah.
But her character dies, and not only do I see it coming, like I saw it coming with a lot of other mentors in movies, but I cared not at all for her dying. I didn't feel like there was anything lost or gained by her death. Yeah. They should have made it
as much as I want strong female characters in the MCU.
I don't feel like Doctor Strange felt any different about her in her death or in her life. I don't feel like she affected him very much because she died, other than, like, these... I will say it forced him to, have to step up and go up against Dormammu. But
yeah, she's done. We don't need her anymore. She's fulfilled her plot purpose. And we don't like strong female characters in the MCU, so move along. I
think that's less about the MCU. Well, no, they could have made her character better, but let's move on from that. I'm gonna skip forward a little bit because we know what happens. So
well, we were at, and he jumps back to his girlfriend so that she could get a little more screen time.
We've already talked about this scene in the movie. He gets stabbed, and he's about to die. So she performs... What does she perform on him?
Some kind of procedure. Yeah. She doesn't perform that. She performs a professional procedure, because she's a professional woman who should not just be assumed doing things that our
looking
background guy is making reference to. But yeah, I mean, that was her purpose, is to be there in time to save him so that he could go on and be important.
But while she was saving him, Doctor Strange did some badass shit, and that's where we get into the thing where he was in the astral plane.
Which is why why we could barely even say what the procedure she was doing was, because it was so unimportant what she was actually doing. We just go with, she was saving his physical body while he was doing astral things.
Yeah.
So,
and it was a cool scene. We've already talked about this scene.
The astral battle.
So let's move on. Next, there's a really awesome scene where Doctor Strange and Mordo. God damn it! Now I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Fucking asshole. This is your fault.
We gotta take the.
Hey, where are you going?
We gotta take the One Ring to. It's
you finished.
Yes, I finished it. Okay. I told you I was preparing while you were preparing.
Okay. So let's there's this really cool scene where Strange and Mordo are running from the bad guys in the mirror dimension, which is this really awesome dimension where things
the mind is more in control.
So, like, walls bend and floors are upside down.
And Matt Damon is just strolling along.
Wrong movie again. Not Matt Damon. Yeah. Stan Lee. And
the Stan Lee reference.
I will say
Stan Lee cameo.
That had to have been one of his shittiest cameos in any movie ever.
It was a cameo. There's got to be a Stan Lee cameo. cameo,
but he couldn't. If he had said nothing, that would have been a far better cameo. Instead, he had to go, "Oh, this is hilarious!" while looking at the newspaper. It was weird. Anyways,
he could have just sat there looking at the newspaper. And we could have just been awed by the presence of Stan Lee. I'm over it.
Anyways. I'm over him being in these movies as cameos.
I still like
some of them are
funny.
Some of them are funny, but others are stupid, like this one. Anyways, it was cool to see Strange and Mordo in action together. Even if I would have liked more scenes where they like if one of them's about to fall off a cliff of some kind, if one of them stopped and saved
one helping the other,
just signify the brothers in arms type thing.
But more it was the two of them surviving the chase,
right.
individually, but in the same presence, in the presence of each other.
So in the midst of this whole battle, the Ancient One dies.
Right.
And so she's stabbed in the stomach, and she's not paralyzed, but like she freezes, of course, because she's stabbed and in pain, and
thrown really high.
Wait, stop it. So she's stabbed, and she stays there standing for several seconds, and then she gets thrown off a cliff. And I think in comparison to Stephen Strange being stabbed in the heart and had somebody pursuing him, like, what? You got something to say.
Stephen Strange survives a much more fatal wound. She's just stabbed in the stomach, and then
she freezes, and in the process of this near immortal being being frozen, she gets thrown off a cliff and dies.
Yeah.
And then there's, I guess, what's supposed to be a touching scene between Stephen Strange and the Ancient One as she's dying. And
in the astral, so that they
could just stop time. They could just stop time
to have as long of a talk as they please.
And it was such a long talk too.
Yeah. It did drag on a little.
It drug on a little, especially. I mean, I guess if you liked the character and actually cared when she died, it was a good scene. But for me, it was.
I liked the character. But even liking the character, it was like
we're gonna die. We know exactly what's gonna happen.
You accept that this is her death before the scene starts, so then it's just dragging on
and then the first
get on with it.
One of the first lines of dialogue is, "Oh, so you know you're gonna die right now?" Yeah. And then they continue talking about it, and
like there's no panic of no, you can't die now.
And this is one of the moments where Benedict Cumberbatch doesn't show any emotion. This is one of those moments where he doesn't show any emotion, and it makes it all the more like
if he tried to fight her she's accepting it because she knows it's happening.
Yeah.
But he should have. Realistically, to the character development, he should have tried to fight her, just accepting that she's dying a lot more. Instead, they blah blah for a while.
It was kind of But then, of course, we get the big battle.
Yeah,
and the big battle that happens, and it's badass. I mean, Hong Kong is in ruins, but it's so cool. To see Hong Kong in ruins.
We're unruining Hong Kong during the big battle.
People are being destroyed and everything, and it's amazing and it's
destroyed.
Cool. And then Stephen Strange rewinds time.
Yeah.
And it's the coolest motherfucking thing to see Stephen Strange, Mordo, and I guess Wong at some point, but that's a little while later. And of course, Caecilius and a few of the minions. They're going in normal order. What's it called? They're going the normal way while everyone else in the world is going reverse.
It's rewinding, yeah.
So it's such a trippy scene to just look at. But then, of course, we got the whole chaos in the background fixing itself.
Yeah.
Like unchaosing itself, and it's badass. And that's all you can say about that scene. It's exactly what you wanted to see for a big battle at the Stephen Strange movie.
And then our hero is fallen. And that's how we wrap that battle.
And then our hero is what?
Is on the ground. Technically he loses that battle because he's knocked down and the rewind is stopped, And this is when it's Doctor Strange doing the Doctor Strange thing, realizing physically I'm outmatched here.
This is the best.
It's time to be smart.
This is my favorite scene in the movie.
Probably the smartest thing he could have done, and he just
good.
And it just that's the way his mind works.
It just
clicks in the scene, and oh right, this is how I solve this.
But it should have been bad. This is what I was talking about earlier about how so many things in this movie should have been bad, but were amazing. This should have been a huge cop out. Yeah. I mean, granted, we got the big battle we wanted, but we still didn't win.
That'll be the one spoiler we're not giving is what that's.
I think
what
he
thought
talk about it.
Figured out. No.
Why won't we give it?
Let that because that's the very last scene. We'll let you go watch that.
Good,
but just
fine.
Doctor Strange being Doctor Strange is the moment of the heat. He wants to fight the fight, but he realizes no. I'm supposed to be the smarter one here, and
he just did something.
Here's the answer to the
basically it was basically I'm gonna say this much. It was a peaceful resolution, but it didn't feel cheap. You didn't feel like you were cheaped out because of this, because it was so cool how it was done.
Yeah.
So now we've gone through and run through the whole of the movie.
Yeah.
Not how I intended on doing this, but that's how we did it. Now, here's the big question. What would you rate it?
Rate it. Let's go 1 through 10.
1 through 10. Are 0.5s allowed or no? I'm gonna say no. If that's good.
Just give it a 1 through 10.
1 through 10. All right.
Honestly, I'd give it an 8.
You give it an 8?
Yeah, it was better than the majority of movies I've seen by a more than arguable amount.
I think it was better. Not only was it, I'm supposed to rate it by all movies, but I'm especially impressed because, in my opinion, it was one of the better done MCU movies.
Best special effects, period. 10.
Best special effects, perhaps.
10 special effects.
Maybe in comparison to a couple others, but
and see it in 3D.
It was the fact that this was the first, MCU movie in a long time that I didn't have to, suspend my logic was a big deal for me. But let's just talk about the whole movie, and I guess I'll go with an 8 as well. Yeah. I was gonna go higher. I was gonna go higher in all honesty.
Oh, I talked you down. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with an 8.
No, Of all movies I've seen, 8 is definitely where I place that. Of MCU, I give it a 9.
Right.
It was one of my more favorite MCU movies.
Right. If we're just talking about the MCU, I can't imagine not giving it
Not the best, but this is definitely a jewel of the MCU.
And hopefully we see more like it.
Yeah. No,
in the MCU, the MCU is turning into such a huge universe that you can have almost multiple different genres in the same universe, and I liked it a lot.
Should we spoil after credits?
I mean, sure.
Okay, so now we've established there's not just Tony Stark's science in Earth, but now we've established there's magic on Earth, and there's a certain outsider that's like, oh, so you've bridged magic and you've bridged science, but not the in-between. We have a Thor scene.
We have a Thor scene, and so there's this Thor scene. It's very small, and it's very, it would have been inconsequential in its own movie.
Mug.
What?
The mug.
Oh, right. That was hilarious.
So he starts out serving Thor some
tea. I'm not really
I'm not a tea person.
Yeah, so it's Stephen Strange and
here's a mug of beer.
Thor. He's holding a teacup and he's like, I'm not really a fan of tea, and he holds it off screen for a second and comes back and all of a sudden it's a pint. It's a beer mug and it's hilarious.
More than a pint, yeah.
More than a pint, yeah.
That was almost a half-gallon beer mug.
I mean, this scene would have been, like I said, it would have been very small in its own movie.
Yeah.
But it was
it was a hilarious.
It was not only hilarious,
intro
but it also
to
gave
what's coming next.
It also gave some exposition, if you will, on what's to come. And Doctor Strange is very worried about Loki because, Loki is a bad thing. Loki is apparently on his list of bad people that he needs to watch out for. And he's having this conversation with Thor about how he does not want Loki on Earth.
Apparently, Thor has brought Loki to Earth for some situation.
You know what the situation is?
Yeah.
They are looking to find Odin.
Yeah.
Odin has apparently gone missing, just as, they made it clear at the end of Dark World. But what I think is kind of funny is Loki was cosplaying as Odin at the end of Dark World.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking during that scene, is what happened to Loki pretending to be Odin.
And then Thor apparently finds out at some point. This might be a scene from a future movie.
Yeah.
So, just like the Captain America Civil War scene with Bucky.
Pay attention, as always, after credits. We have a Thor appearance.
And, no, that's during the credits.
Yeah,
after the credits.
After credits.
Do we want to talk about that? So we didn't spoil the ending of the big scene. Do we want to talk about this?
Yeah, we'll keep the actual end of the movie, not spoiler, but the after credits. So
after credits. So Baron Mordo is one of the bigger villains in the Marvel Comics world.
Yeah, which is why it's amusing that he's now his brother in arms throughout this movie.
And you don't even, we were talking again, I said it before, multiple times, that I had no clue that this was the Baron Mordo. I heard the name Mordo on its own and didn't even think.
Yeah.
This is that bad guy. Especially since he was he had so much honor. He was like the the good side of the moral compass for this whole movie.
Yeah.
And then
every scene throughout the movie, every time they mention his name, it just doesn't click
that he's this awful person in the comics.
And then the after credit scene,
it clicks.
It clicks because he
kills Jonathan Pangborn.
The one who told
Doctor Strange
where to find the power.
Pangborn, by the way, it's revealed during the movie that Pangborn is also a sorcerer and learned magic to keep his legs working constantly.
So Mordo...
That's the only reason that he's not paralyzed.
So Baron shows up.
Baron Mordo shows up and just kills...
My recent experiences, I've decided you don't get your magic anymore.
You don't get your magic back.
And that's when it clicks. He's supposed to be a villain!
He's the bad guy. And I love that they're playing the long con on this character, because if there's something that's so frustrating about these movies, it's that they have big name villains not only die in their first appearance, but sometimes just die in shitty ways. They go out like a bitch sometimes in these. I know Baron Strucker. Baron Strucker. Yeah? Baron Strucker. He went out like a bitch and it upset me.
Off-scene went out.
Off-scene.
And you just find him later.
Another one of their biggest villains. And
you don't
even find him dead. You don't even find him dead. You just see a picture of him dead. No, they showed a picture of him, and then there was the painted in his
writing
blood
on the wall. Yeah.
So he went out like a bitch, and it's frustrating when they do shit like that. And earlier in the movies it was okay.
Skull and crossbones,
Crossbones also died, also went out like a bitch.
Especially since he had so much. And kill him 5 minutes later.
He had so much going for him too, because he appeared. What did he appear in first? The first thing he appeared in was the first Captain America. No, second.
No, he appears.
Second Captain America, he appears without his mask. And he nearly dies.
Right.
And they have this big lead up. Oh my god, Crossbones is going to be a big thing. And then he shows up at the beginning of Captain America 3 and just...
It's more spoilers, by the way. Whole different movie. But yeah.
It's in the first 2 minutes of a movie, though. So
the MCU in general
has not treated their villains well.
Giving us these characters that we're waiting to see, and then you're gone.
I moved to start the Villain Equality Movement.
There we go.
The Villain Equality Act. Villains deserve the same equality despite being raging assholes as all the heroes.
Should we hashtag that? villain lives.
Oh, for fuck's sakes. Alright, no? The movie was good.
Are we going to do it?
And it was delicious.
No, we're moving on.
Baron Mordo is going to be a thing. And Stephen Strange is going to be a thing. And it seems he's going to be in Thor Ragnarok, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Benedict Cumberbatch is signed on for at least one other solo film, which is great.
Yeah, we know that, so...
So, yeah. I mean, is there anything else you wanted to add to that? Add to our things and whatnot and stuff? Our things and stuff?
Is there anything in the chat room of questions or anything? No, we're good?
No. Yeah.
I mean, only that, if I didn't mention it, I'm sure I mentioned it, Sony, you screw up Spider-Man, I will hunt you down.
It's got it right there. It's got it right there.
Right there. Anyways, watch the movie.
Watch the movie. It was great.
It was a great movie. And so see it in 3D. I mean, we didn't see it in 3D, but that there was definitely, it was obvious that...
I mean, now that you've
wish we watched it in 3D.
If you've really sat through this whole thing, I mean, why didn't you just go see the movie to begin with? Like, I mean, come on. You could have spent the last 2 hours watching it. We would recommend it.
And don't forget to check out our other stuff on the channel.
Yeah. GlitchSlap. Check it out.
We GlitchSlap.
I am AJ Crash. This year is Morgan McDuff.
Still drunk. And thank you for watching and bearing with us this long.
We're gonna head out. My head is killing me.
I'm dizzy every time I turn my head the wrong way.